Good evening, George Will here. Breaking news tonight from the heart of Hollywood's power structure, where one of the entertainment industry's most formidable talent agencies has severed ties with a client once positioned as a transformative force in modern media. WME, the powerhouse agency representing Hollywood's elite, has officially terminated its representation of Meghan Markle, with co CEO Ari Emanuel delivering a damning assessment that cuts to the core of celebrity brand management in the digital age. Emanuel's characterization of the relationship as unworkable and his description of Markle as a damaged brand represents not merely a business decision, but a seismic shift in the calculus of celebrity marketability that reverberates far beyond the confines of Beverly Hills boardrooms. This development arrives at a critical juncture in the ongoing saga of the Sussex brand, a narrative that has captivated audiences across the political spectrum while raising fundamental questions about accountability, credibility, and the consequences of strategic miscalculation in the public sphere. The termination of this professional relationship, confirmed through multiple industry sources with direct knowledge of internal WME deliberations, marks the culmination of mounting frustrations within one of the world's most influential talent agencies, an organization that represents presidents, tech billionaires, and Academy Award winners, yet found itself unable to navigate the complexities inherent in representing a former senior royal turned Hollywood aspirant. Before we proceed further into this consequential story, I want to ask you to subscribe to this channel and activate notifications, because the implications of this decision extend into areas that mainstream media outlets remain reluctant to explore with appropriate rigor. The questions raised by WME's decision demand the kind of sustained analytical attention that superficial coverage cannot provide, and in the coming weeks, we will continue to examine how celebrity, accountability, and institutional credibility intersect in ways that illuminate larger truths about our contemporary media landscape. The evidence supporting this dramatic professional rupture emerges from multiple converging streams, each independently corroborating a pattern of dysfunction that ultimately proved untenable for an agency operating at the pinnacle of global entertainment representation. Three senior WME executives, speaking on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of client relationships, confirmed to industry trade publications that internal discussions regarding the Markle account had grown increasingly contentious over an 18-month period preceding the final decision. These sources described a mounting catalog of concerns ranging from unrealistic project expectations and resistance to strategic guidance to what one executive characterized as a fundamental misalignment between the client's self-perception and market realities. The financial dimensions of this relationship provide quantifiable context for understanding why an agency that typically thrives on commission percentages from blockbuster deals would choose to walk away from a globally recognizable name. Industry analysis reveals that despite WME's representation beginning in April 2021 with considerable fanfare and speculation about nine-figure deals, the actual revenue generated through successfully concluded projects fell dramatically short of initial projections. The Spotify podcast deal, originally valued at approximately $18 million, was terminated in June 2023 after producing merely 12 episodes of content across a 3-year contract period, representing a per-episode cost structure that industry veterans described as economically indefensible from the platform's perspective. The Netflix arrangement, while still technically active, has similarly underperformed relative to the reported $81 million valuation attached to the overall Sussex production deal. Documentary projects that materialized received mixed critical reception and viewership numbers that, according to streaming analytics firms with access to proprietary platform data, failed to crack the top 10 in their respective debut weeks in major English language markets, including the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. For an agency that operates on commission percentages typically ranging from 10 to 15% of client earnings, the gap between anticipated revenue streams and actual delivered income created an increasingly difficult justification for the resource allocation required to service an account generating disproportionate internal management demands. The chronology of mounting evidence reveals a pattern that extends beyond mere financial underperformance into territory that raises more fundamental questions about professional relationship viability. In August 2022, WME agents reportedly presented Markle with a strategic recommendation to pivot toward unscripted lifestyle content, a genre that naturally aligned with her stated interests in wellness, cooking, and domestic arts while avoiding the biographical controversy that had proven polarizing with certain audience segments. Sources familiar with these discussions indicated that the recommendation was rejected in favor of pursuing prestige documentary projects with more explicit political and social commentary dimensions, a decision that contributed to ongoing tensions between client objectives and agency counsel. By February 2023, internal WME communications obtained by entertainment trade reporters revealed growing frustration with what agency personnel described as pattern difficulties in project development meetings with potential production partners and brand collaboration discussions with corporate entities. Multiple prospective partners reportedly expressed reluctance to proceed with proposed ventures after initial exploratory conversations, citing concerns about potential controversy, audience polarization, and the unpredictability of public statements that might undermine carefully calibrated brand partnerships. One particular incident in spring 2023 involved a luxury fashion house that withdrew from advanced negotiations for a brand ambassadorship reportedly worth seven figures annually, with company representatives citing evolving strategic priorities that industry observers interpreted as diplomatic language for reputational risk assessment. The evidentiary foundation expands to encompass polling data and audience sentiment analysis that provided WME strategists with quantifiable metrics regarding brand perception challenges. A comprehensive survey conducted by a leading market research firm in January 2024, polling 2,000 American adults across demographic categories, revealed that Markle's favorable ratings stood at 31%, with unfavorable ratings reaching 54% and the remainder expressing no opinion. The critical demographic breakdown showed particularly challenging numbers among women over 50, a core target audience for the lifestyle and wellness content that represented the most commercially viable path forward. Among this demographic, unfavorable ratings reached 63%, with only 22% expressing favorable views. International polling presented similarly sobering realities for an agency attempting to monetize global celebrity status. United Kingdom surveys consistently showed unfavorable ratings exceeding 70%, effectively eliminating the British market as a viable commercial territory for brand partnerships or content distribution dependent on audience goodwill. Canadian and Australian data, while less extreme, nonetheless revealed net negative sentiment that complicated the broader Commonwealth market calculus that had initially seemed promising given Markle's formal connection to royal history. The comprehensive evidence presentation must acknowledge the documentary trail of public statements and media appearances that contributed to the evolving risk assessment within WME leadership circles. The March 2021 interview broadcast, while predating formal WME representation, established narrative frameworks and controversy parameters that continued to influence commercial viability throughout the subsequent representation period. Allegations presented during that interview generated immediate global attention, while simultaneously creating lasting perception challenges with specific audience segments whose engagement remained essential for commercial project success. Subsequent media appearances and public statements maintain this pattern of generating immediate attention while complicating longer-term strategic positioning. The December 2022 documentary series release, despite attracting substantial initial viewership driven by controversy and pre-existing public interest, produced audience retention patterns that streaming analytics indicated were front-loaded, with significant viewership drop-off after initial episodes. This pattern suggested that while the Sussex brand could generate curiosity-driven sampling, converting that sampling into sustained engagement presented more substantial challenges. The timeline reconstruction illuminates how incremental developments accumulated into an irreversible trajectory toward professional separation. In April 2021, WME's signing of Markle as a client generated industry headlines and speculation about transformative deals that would redefine celebrity monetization in the streaming era. Initial conversations with major platforms and production companies reflected the optimism of that moment, with multiple entities expressing interest in exploring potential partnerships. By September 2021, however, the first project development challenges emerged, with proposed podcast concepts receiving feedback from platform partners requesting modifications to format, tone, and content approach. January 2022 brought the first significant project cancellation when an animated children's series, announced with considerable fanfare months earlier, was quietly shelved following creative development difficulties and reported concerns about controversial association with the Sussex brand. March 2022 marked the beginning of what industry insiders described as a pattern of missed project deadlines and development delays, with multiple initiatives falling behind projected production schedules. June 2022 saw the public emergence of reports suggesting tensions between Markle and various production collaborators, with anonymous sources describing challenging working dynamics on podcast production. November 2022 brought intensified scrutiny when the South Park animated series aired a satirical episode widely interpreted as commentary on the Sussex publicity approach, an episode that generated viral attention and crystallized certain public perceptions that complicated ongoing commercial negotiations. February 2023 witnessed the first trade publication reports suggesting WME frustration with the account, stories that agency representatives declined to confirm, but also, notably, did not deny. By June 2023, the Spotify deal termination became public, with platform executives making unusually candid statements about productivity expectations and content delivery, language that industry veterans recognized as remarkably direct for an industry typically characterized by diplomatic public relations messaging. August 2023 brought reports of scaled-back Netflix commitments and revised production timelines, indicating evolving platform enthusiasm for Sussex-branded content. The legal consequences framework, while not involving criminal liability, nonetheless encompasses contractual obligations and professional relationship termination protocols that operate under California entertainment law and industry standard practice. WME's decision to terminate representation required compliance with talent agency regulations established by the California Labor Commissioner, protocols designed to protect both agencies and clients during relationship dissolution. The termination letter, delivered through legal counsel in accordance with industry standard practice, provided the contractually required notice period and outlined the mutual release of obligations that enables both parties to pursue independent paths forward. Industry analysts noted that the language employed in formalizing the separation, while legally sufficient, lacked the warm expressions of continued friendship and mutual respect that typically characterize agency-client partings, suggesting a relationship conclusion marked more by professional necessity than mutual strategic evolution. The scenario analysis must examine multiple potential trajectories emerging from this consequential development. The first scenario envisions Markle securing representation with a smaller boutique agency specializing in celebrity brand rehabilitation and strategic repositioning, an approach that would acknowledge current perception challenges while attempting methodical reconstruction of commercial viability through carefully selected projects designed to rebuild audience goodwill. This pathway would require acceptance of more modest initial opportunities while demonstrating consistent professional reliability that could gradually expand future possibilities. A second scenario contemplates independent operation without traditional agency representation, utilizing direct relationships with production companies and brand partners to develop projects aligned with personal vision rather than commercial optimization strategies. This approach offers creative autonomy while assuming greater personal responsibility for business development, contract negotiation, and strategic planning functions that agencies typically provide. The third scenario involves a strategic retreat from entertainment industry pursuits toward focus on nonprofit advocacy work and philanthropic initiatives that leverage public platform for charitable objectives rather than commercial monetization. This direction would remove commercial performance pressure while potentially rebuilding public perception through demonstrated commitment to causes beyond personal brand management. A fourth possibility examines international market focus, particularly exploring opportunities in markets where Sussex brand perception remains more favorable or where cultural distance from British and American controversy creates different commercial dynamics. Middle Eastern, Asian, or Latin American markets might present partnership opportunities less constrained by English language media narrative frameworks. The final scenario acknowledges the possibility of extended public hiatus, a strategic withdrawal from media visibility that allows controversy to recede and public attention to shift toward other subjects, creating eventual opportunity for reemergence under different circumstances with evolved strategic positioning. The urgency that frames this analysis stems from recognition that WME's decision represents more than isolated business development, instead illuminating fundamental questions about accountability, consequence, and the limits of celebrity privilege in an era of unprecedented media democratization. When one of the world's most powerful talent agencies, an organization with every financial incentive to maintain representation of a globally recognized name, determines that continuing the professional relationship proves unworkable, that determination demands serious examination of the underlying dynamics that produce such an outcome. Ari Emanuel's characterization of a damaged brand carries particular weight given his position at the summit of entertainment industry power structures and his reputation for direct communication, unfiltered by public relations euphemism. This assessment, emerging from someone whose professional success depends on accurate evaluation of celebrity marketability and commercial potential, provides reality check perspective that contrasts sharply with the narrative frameworks promoted through friendly media outlets and strategic public relations campaigns. The implications extend beyond individual celebrity trajectory into questions about institutional credibility, media accountability, and the consequences of strategic choices made in pursuit of particular public narratives. The distance between self perception and market reality, between stated objectives and actual achievements, between projected image and audience reception, creates gaps that eventually demand reconciliation regardless of public relations sophistication or media access. As we close this examination, I want to pose a question for your consideration and response in the comments below. Does WME's decision represent an isolated business development, or does it signal broader industry reassessment of Sussex brand commercial viability that will influence other partnership decisions in coming months? Your perspective contributes to our collective understanding of these dynamics, and I look forward to reading your analysis. The narrative continues to evolve, and in our next examination, we will explore how this agency termination influences ongoing Netflix relationship negotiations and what internal platform discussions reveal about the future of Sussex production deals. The evidence trail leads in directions that demand continued investigation, and we will follow that trail wherever it extends. Until then, I remain George Will, committed to examining power, accountability, and consequence with the rigor these questions deserve.